away the tail down.
The inside of Coates.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Good evening and welcome to the VRRC League of Champions. My name is Steve Proudley and as always I'm joined by VRRC's very own Dave Marshall. Good evening, Dave.
How are we doing, Steve? You alright?
Yeah, really excited, mate. We're at Zandvoort this week. We have a new challenge for the drivers. After 4 cracking rounds, 8 fantastic races in the Porsche Cup cars, we now move on to the Fabarth, the open wheel Formula car, Dave. Exciting times. Yeah,
couldn't be much more different discipline, really, could it? Rear-wheel drive, rear-engined, heavy Porsche, loads of aero, and then you go to a Fabarth open wheel with 200 brake. You can get on the throttle halfway around a corner, and basically like a go-kart in comparison.
Yeah, lots more downforce, a lot grippier cars. They will have to worry about tyres from what we were discussing earlier. Just reference, they have a couple of compounds to choose from, but there are a few factors maybe you want to tell the viewers about, Dave?
Yeah, so we've got 3 compounds of tyres, soft, medium and hard. From what I can tell through testing and driver feedback, the softs are designed a lot more for your tighter go-kart style tracks, where you're probably not leaning on the tyres in sort of 5th and 6th gear. So I reckon it's a medium strategy today, medium tyres. We might see people dabble on the hards for the race if they think the tyres aren't going to quite last the whole distance.
Yeah, and obviously we have got 4 rounds for the guys to get to grips with, in these cars, and it's going to be very, very testing for them. We do go to Vallelunga, Red Bull Ring, and Migioni, which is going to be interesting. It's 4 very varied tracks as always. After the the Porsche Cup races, Jordan Brennan actually came out on top there with championship points of 127 points on the table, which I think from what you were telling me, Jordan Brennan, he was very surprised by to be in that position at the end of the Porsche Cup.
Yeah, I think Jordan, I'm not saying he had a difficult start, but it was just a very dominant start by Jack McIntyre. He came out the blocks, he had something to prove, and fair play to him, put laps that no one could really touch. And then I think just as the season developed, the likes of Robbie Stapleton and Jordan Brennan just started to get the hang of the car a little bit more and just close that gap to Jack. And then we just had a race where Jack's championship turned upside down a bit and had a bad round at Thruxton, which closed the gap and actually gave Jordan Brennan the championship lead. Fair play to Jordan, he drove a great last round. And came away with the championship win. So it just shows, it's not all about, getting that championship lead early. Things can turn around.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have the Fabarths now starting 4 rounds for these cars. Then we go to Classic DTMs for another 4 rounds, and then we have the TT Cup to finish things off, but another 4 rounds. So that's a lot of races still to come. A lot of championship points. So obviously, it's all very, very far from over. But another driver that improved with time in the Porsche, isn't it? It'll be very interesting to see how he goes in these cars. Was Robbie Stapleford as well? He had some very, very strong finishes in those last rounds, as we just see the guys now have taken to the track, and qualifying has started. 14 minutes remaining on the clock. But yeah, Robbie Stapleford was a great improver in the Porsches, wasn't he, Dave?
Yeah, Robbie's been a bit of a standout driver really in Porsche. He took on first round. He was relatively quick, and then got in touch with 1010's coaching, and did a few coaching sessions with myself. I'm not saying that I'm entirely thank for his success. He's a hell of a driver. Shows a lot of maturity in his driving, but we just helped him get that little bit more consistent and help him get up the grid. And it's a great finish for him in the championship. I think he's 1 point behind Jack in the overall. So yeah, he's kept things really close going in the next championships.
Yeah, absolutely. And when a driver sort of seeks out some driver coaching, some help, it just shows commitment, doesn't it, from them? It's that they are trying to improve, and improve he certainly has. And it is great to see when the guys do. But just to touch on the race tonight, normally we have ballast, but with the open wheelers, there is no ballast this evening. It's a level playing field. All the guys, it is as it is, and it's qualifying for this first race and then reverse grid. Top 15, I think, isn't it, Dave, for the second race? So
top 12, mate.
Top 12, sorry.
Yeah.
So top 12. So that'll be an interesting one to see how easy it is to battle these cars through the pack, because Formula cars, you certainly can't rub them like you can the tin tops of the Porsches, can you?
No, I mean, I'm sure there's some drivers that definitely will try. But yeah, I mean, it's with these cars, it's all about how late you can brake. The cars are fitted with ABS, so you can basically stamp on the brakes at points when you'd think, you should really be braking now, and you're still later on the brakes, still into a corner. And slipstream's going to play a massive part as well. It's all about getting the slipstream and calculating them overtakes for getting the advantage down the straights when it matters. Other than that, we might see the lads, like Max Bird or Isaac Smith, who have had huge success in go-karts. That might really pay off tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, and also tyre management. I know yourself and me were talking about that earlier on, that definitely with the new layout at Zandvoort, we're on the GP layout this evening. We do have some very high-speed corners. We have the new banked curve, so those tyres will get leaned on very, very hard, and obviously tyre conservation will become an issue, as we just seen one guy spun around there, not quite sure who that was, but safely avoided by Michael Epps, and Mike Epps has certainly been in the practice server. He's been the time setter. But yeah, the tyre management's going to be pretty important, as Mike Epps indeed goes to the top of the timing table with a 1:35.386.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see some very, very close times tonight. Even through the practice server, the drivers that are at the top, they're only separated by a tenth or two. The question is how many drivers are separated by a tenth or two. I think there's the majority of the drivers in the top 10 are all going to post very, very low 35s, if not managing to break into them 34s. We saw Mike Epps in practice set the fastest time of the day, which was a 34.4, which is an incredible time. But the question is, no one really knows how sustainable that is in race pace, and what impact it will have on the tyres.
Yeah, absolutely, because the tyres in the Formula cars, we've got soft, medium and hard, and we were saying a track like this, as we're just watching Jack McIntyre avoid another spun car there, but Jack McIntyre on what I think is a hot lap, but it's difficult, isn't it? The Formula cars, it's 20 minutes. The soft tyres, you were saying, they're no good for this track. It's the wrong type of circuit for the softs. They'll overheat. There's too much load on them through the fast corners. So pretty much we're expecting all the drivers now to basically run the mediums potentially for the race.
Yeah, I think every driver within reason will be on the mediums in quali. I think the softs, especially the speed of the track, we're not even seeing the softs last a lap, so it's just not really an option to run the softs. The mediums seem to be really good for a good 4 or 5 laps, and then the backs just really start to wear out. So yeah, I think everyone is going to be on mediums. Be interesting to see whether anyone wants to take the risk and go hards for the race that may come into their own in the last 5 minutes of the race.
Yeah, fantastic. It's going to be a really steep learning curve for all of these drivers after doing so many laps in the Porsches over the previous weeks now, to really change up to the open wheelers, the Formula cars. It's a completely different sort of driving style, really. It's, you've really got to attack the corners, I think, in these cars, haven't you? But obviously just have that tyre management in the back of your mind and drive, sensibly, I suppose, is the word, and just manage everything. And even though, potentially it's only 20 minutes, you've still got to really make those tyres last, because by the end of the race, even the mediums could be just about on their last limits of grip, couldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, if you spin towards the end of the laps, but you've gained all the time at the start on the mediums, what good was it going out of mediums? So maybe hards will play a part in it, but we'll wait and see. But a quick note, in Porsche, we saw Robin Walters sign up for Porsche, and he was a consistent top 10 driver. But we're going into Formula category here in single seaters, and he was straight away. I mean, he was sitting first there for a good 6 minutes of quali. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the drivers and how they adapt with the car.
Yeah, absolutely. We've just seen Max Bird literally has just put a 1:35.014 on the board, which puts him in first place with Isaac Smith. And as we say that, Mike Epps goes back to the top and he's into those 1:34.8s. We have seen him go around about 4/10 quicker than that on the practice server. Be interesting to see if he can build up and match those times, but the times are getting quicker as the guys are putting the laps in. So Mike Epps currently in pole position with a 1:34.8, Max Bird in second with he's a 10th and a half off, Jordan Brennan third, Isaac Smith fourth, Max Edmondson fifth, Robbie Walters in sixth place, Jack McIntyre down in seventh at the moment. We've got Johnson 9/10 off in eighth, and Oliver and again 9/10 off in ninth. So the top nine are under a second apart there. That's pretty close.
Incredibly close, isn't it? This is what we want to see from this low power Formula 4 style single seater. We always knew it was going to provide close competition, but you probably just saw there the lovely colours of Max Bird's car, very closely representing what he's got in real life in his mini challenge car with Bluebird Developments. It's great. It's the start of custom liveries on the car, so we're going to really be able to distinguish who's who on track.
Yeah, should be able to pick out the drivers, and just going to mention a few people in the chat this evening. Thank you for joining us. We've got Michelle Dunn, James McGill, Absolute Dan. Good evening, Dan. We've got Ross McFarlane. We've got Jan, is it? I think in there. So good evening to everyone who's in the chat, and let us know who you're supporting, and any questions you've got that you want us to direct to Dave. I'm sure he's got the answer for everything.
Well, you said about James McGill putting something in there. Go and follow him on Facebook and Instagram for V12 Media or his own profile. He does some fantastic motorsport photography, and he's getting into doing sim photography as well. So hopefully we'll see some really nice, good pictures after tonight's race.
Yeah, always good to see and look forward to it. Just back to these cars, as Mike Epps has improved on his time again. He's a 1:34.7 now. Max Bird is just under 3/10 off him now. Robbie Stapleford up into third place again, just over 3/10 off. So the times are remaining pretty close. We're still down to that 9th place of a second off. In fact, 10th place now is just 1.06 off pole position time at the moment. So the top 10 all very, very close. Are these cars easier to drive, Dave, than the Porsche?
Yeah, 100%. 100% they're easy to drive, as we just see a spinner there. But on the whole, once the back end loses it, it's gone. You're not getting it back. But to drive around the track, the Porsche was a real handful. You've got a lot of body weight. Even though you would regard a Porsche race car as being relatively stiff, you don't know the meaning of stiff until you get in one of these single seaters. There's virtually no suspension. So any sort of curb hits, you can feel everything through the wheel. But yeah, compared to the Porsche, this is probably a better entry level sim race to enter if you know fairly new to the sim world.
Yes, I mean what you're saying to us then is the guy you put the Porsche Cups out there just to test the mettle of the guys, really, and they've all survived that. And is there any new drivers that have joined the ranks this evening? We've obviously got Mike Epps in there, who wasn't in the Porsches. I'm just looking down the list.
Yeah, so we got Mike Epps who was incredibly late to sign up. We're very privileged to have a ex-British touring car driver. He's done Renault Clio. You just have to look on his Instagram profile. He's a very, very successful real driver. And with the likes of COVID and funding, he's gone into the sim world and proven himself to be, just as fast there as well as real world. But yeah, we've got the likes of Tony Gallagher, who's just signed up tonight as well. Very, very minimal time in the car, so it's nice to see him getting a time on the board. Only 3 seconds off pole. That's definitely not something to be ashamed of. But yeah, on the whole, a lot of people that want to sort of do well in the league, that's followed on from the Porsche, so that they've signed up again for the Fabarth, and yeah, it's going to be an exciting one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I jumped into the chat server earlier on this evening and had a quick chat with Mick Sutton. Now, Mick is a driver. I said to him, I've watched him do a couple of championships now, and in the Porsche Cups, he's not the quickest guy. He's developing, he's learning, but it just goes to show with racing against faster guys in a community like VRRC where it's all managed racing. We have stewarding. It's that everyone's there to help everyone. Mick Sutton he's becoming consistent and he's becoming quicker, and in his own words, he's enjoying the racing. And it's sort of you test yourself and you put yourself in with guys like this, and it's a good community to be part of. Everybody helps each other. Yeah,
it'd be great to get Mick in an interview after one of these races. He's a real character, but yeah, great guy, and yeah, he's relatively new to the sim world, and it's incredibly daunting. Going down the first corner with 15 cars around you. You don't really know where to look.
See Stapleford just into the barriers there, pushing a little bit too hard.
Yeah, so that there's going to be one of the key places to watch in the race. It's very, very easy to push it too hard there around turn 3 and just run it onto the grass as we saw, and the cars are that low to the floor, the car just bottoms out and you lose all steering and brakes. So if anyone does that in the race, it's a bit of a sit and duck, and if they take anyone out or there's contact because of it, to be fair, there's nothing they can do to avoid it.
Yeah, just looking at Jordan Brennan, who was quicker in his Sector 1 time, currently going around, and Jordan Brennan is only 100th of a second off that pole position time at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do now as he's sort of a good halfway around, coming to the final third of the lap now, last few corners, to see if he's managed to keep that time in hand and potentially put it on pole position.
Yeah, it looks good to me this lap. If he can keep this together, is this a bit of a Jack McIntyre and putting it in on the last lap available? This will be good to see him go pole. But Mike Epps, what a time of 34.7 with probably about 3 hours in the seat. As we do see Jordan Brennan go pole, he'll be ecstatic about that. I mean, we haven't talked about the launch of these cars either. It's the same with the Porsche. It's a lot about clutch control and getting a good launch. So yeah, job's not done yet.
No, absolutely not, and it'll be an absolute dive to that first corner.
As we see Mike Epps go top over Jordan. So there we go, 34.5. Jordan will be looking at that going, blinking like, how much more do I have to do?
It's good to see. I mean, he's going to really factor in for some good racing, and we've only got 30 seconds of qualifying left. There's still a few guys left out on track. There's only 2 cars actually in the pits at the moment, but it's going to be good to see, because if they do manage to push each other, then the tyre wear is going to come into it, and it's going to be who manages to conserve any life in the tyres towards the end of the race, and who manages to defend well. In the Porsches, what we tend to find was that if the poleman or got away in clean air, they managed to pull a gap, didn't they? And they used to get away and leave the rest squabbling a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's going to be the case in this championship. I would have said, unless if the lead car can pull a half-second gap going onto them straights, then a driver would be lapping 3 to 4 tenths off the lap of a pole guy. But with slipstream in the straight, see Robin Walters. Hopefully he'll get that back to the pits. But yeah, we can see the pole guy lapping 3 to 4 tenths behind the second guy, and because of slipstream, he just manages to hang on and keep the pressure on. It's all going to be about the slipstream, I think, round here.
Yeah, absolutely. His qualifying is now over. The clock has struck 0, so we're just waiting for the last few cars to complete their laps. But it looks like all the front runners at the moment pretty much have done, although Mike Epps is still showing. Yeah, he's just crossed the line now, so he's in the pits and finished. Mike Epps is currently on that pole position with a 1:34.5, which is a pretty quick time, as Oliver's just coming over the line now to finish his lap. Doesn't look like there's any improvement from him in 9th place. But yeah, Mike Epps in 1st. Jordan Brennan will line up alongside him in 2nd. Then we have Robbie Stapleford. Then we have Walters, Bird, Smith. Jack McIntyre down in 7th place. Maybe it's the change of car for him. Not quite sure, but we'll talk about that in a moment. And then we've got Edmondson in 8th, Oliver in 9th, Johnson 10th, Dorman in 11th, Sutton down in 12th, Fairclough 13th, Carroll in 14th, Gallagher 15th, and Lamy 16th. Pretty good showing from all the guys in qualifying to say it's the first round of this particular formula this evening, Dave. But yeah, Jack McIntyre down in 7th. Is that where you would have expected him in qualifying this week?
I think Jack will probably accept himself that, single seater isn't classed as his forte. Previous experience in the race, and with him, we do a lot of closed cockpit, so things like GT racing, touring cars. Single seater is the adaptation that you have to do to go into single seater is massive. The aero, the speed. You just can't grasp how fast these corners can come at you and how late in the speed you can take the corners. So yeah, there's a lot to adapt to, but hence why Mike is probably, gone and put it on pole.
Great stuff. Well, we have Mike Epps in the interview room. Dave, would you like to go do the honours and ask the questions?
Yeah, I'll go down and have a word with him. Yeah. Right then, Mike. How we doing?
I'm good. You?
Yeah, not too bad. That was about as it planned, isn't it? About 3 hours in this car, and you've gone and put it on pole.
It seems that way, yeah. I have driven this before on Assetto Corsa, but not on this sim, so it is a long time ago.
Yeah, it's probably a lot to get used to.
A little bit, but actually, I've got to say, to be fair, this is one of the best single seaters I've driven in a strange way. I didn't expect to say that either, so no, it's really good. Nearly didn't quite go to plan because I ran my fuel a bit too long for the first run, so I had like 0.8 of a lap left after my best time in my first fuel run, and because we have to come in the pits, so I just cruised in like 6th gear for a lap.
Yeah, clutching all the way back.
Yeah, literally, and then stuck some fuel in, had enough time for one warm up, and stuck a good flyer in. So I was actually up in my middle sector, I think, on the next lap, but I'd completely trashed the first sector, so might have been a little more in it, but that was a pretty smooth performance really for me. Second sector was mega. So
as we were spectating, Jordan literally put it pole, and then the following lap, you went and pipped him by another 10th and a bit. So yeah, I imagine Jordan's feeling fair good. But are you feeling the pressure from Jordan start next year on the grid?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've done a couple starts out the pit lane, but I don't really know what the process is going to be, so I might lose it all on the line. Yeah, we'll find out when it's a proper, throw in the deep end sort of situation. So we'll see how it unfolds. And yeah, regardless, I'm at the front, so I'll have a good race with whoever I'm around. If I can check out and try and pull away, then great. If not, then it's more entertaining for everyone watching, isn't it? So.
Oh, definitely. I mean, honestly, Mike, that's a really impressive drive. With the time you've had in the car, you've come on and, gone straight at the front on pole. So big respect there, and good luck for the race. And watch out for that slipstream, I think.
Yeah. Cheers, man. Pretty much my whole racing career has been jumping in the car last second, so I'm kind of used to it. So cheers, mate.
Good luck, Mike.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
So Mike Epps there, sounding relatively calm, relatively relaxed, Dave, for the race. He knows he's got done the best job he possibly can in qualifying now, and he's just got to get it off the line and into T1 in first place, and that'll be the big factor for him tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he's a racer, isn't he? He's got the experience, he's got the mental side of, preparation for a race. So yeah, he's maybe a bit daunted on the fact he hasn't done many starts in the car, but he's going to really rely on his racecraft just to keep him clean, I think, in the first corner. And, hopefully, it'll be as clean as it can be, as clean as it'll be.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to explain, we're just on the line now, but just to explain to everybody, Dave is also potentially driving the safety car this evening during the race. So if Dave has to disappear, then we know we've got a full course yellow with a safety car on tracks. Yep, we're looks like we're lining up with not too long to go. Interesting to see what tactics will be, because Jordan Brennan obviously is looking at this as a whole championship, and with his main rival Jack McIntyre down in 7th, he's got a chance tonight to start pulling some points while he's currently in the lead of the championship.
Yeah, he does massively. It's going to be a case of, he'll be looking at Jack down in P7, but the reverse grid with the reverse 12. It's anyone's guess what the strategy with Jack is. You can see. I say he doesn't have the pace. He's probably only like four tenths off Jordan. So I mean, it's not a lot really. But he might be thinking slightly more in strategy and getting the reverse. But yeah, Jordan will be definitely think I'm slightly stronger in this championship at the moment than Jack, and wanting to open up any points he can.
Yeah, absolutely. So we need a championship drive from Jordan this evening just to score points. But again, Robbie Stapleford hasn't done himself any harm. He's right up there and looking to score some good points. So it'll be interesting to see how these opening laps sort of pan out for the drivers, and especially turn 1. See if they can get through there nice and clean, and then just file away for the lap, and then just see what goes as the lights are about to come on, and we are about to go racing at Zandvoort for what is round 5 of the League of Champions, but round 1 of the Fabarth Cup. So let's see, lights are on and we are racing. Off they go. So Mike gets away from the line relatively clean, although Jordan has managed to pull up alongside him, and it's looking like Mike was defending there slightly, but he's gone back out to a more traditional line and left the inside. And is that indeed Jordan that's got the inside and got away?
Oh, that was a very, very, very good catch by Robbie Stapleford there to keep that out of the gravel. Incredibly clean start, if I'm honest.
Absolutely, and Jordan Brennan's done what he needed to do, and he's beat Mike off the line and got away in that first place. Now he'll be looking to get his head down, as we're seeing them all filing through what is turn 3, single file there, looking to get a good run down the back of the track now. Just watching Oliver come through, but yeah, Brennan, Epps, Bird, Smith and Stapleford. Stapleford's lost out slightly on that start. Jack McIntyre's managed to move up to 6th place, I believe, up from 7th, so he's making a little bit of progress, got a good start. But yeah, everything looking relatively clean, dare I say, at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to curse it, but I think it's the first time we're not going to have a safety car on the start of a race. So that's a really good showing from the lads. You saw how twitchy them cars were off the line. Yeah, phenomenal, really, isn't it?
Yeah, be absolutely. Just be really good driving. It'd just be interesting now to see how the management works out in the race. Will Jordan Brennan how hard will he push? He's opening up a lead now by a tenth or so. Every few corners, it's now sort of over half a second. Although it looks very close on track, half a second. Any racing driver will tell you is breathing space, albeit not very much, but it is breathing space. Max Bird in third place, Isaac Smith 4th, Robbie Stapleford 5th, Jack McIntyre still in that 6th place, but pushing. As we're just looking at Mick Sutton, who's just taken an excursion off the track. No damage, I don't think, just rejoined there safely. Just be running on dirty tyres for a few corners.
Yeah, so as we saw there where Mick Sutton went off, it's just to point out that last corner, that inside curb, it's almost just a bit too aggressive for these cars. So we just see a little bit of the bottoming out as they go around that second to last corner. And I think that's what's happened there with Mick. He's just bottomed the car out, and the car's just pushed a little bit wide into the gravel.
Yeah, two guys who are fighting against each other in the championship. Just looking at Robbie Stapleford, who's got Jack McIntyre right up behind him. We're on board with Jack now, just pushing. And in the Formula cars, you don't get much closer than that, do you? Because these cars will suffer with that aero wash. Even though the Formula 4s, it'll still affect them big time, I would think. Does it, Dave?
Yeah, so that's something we haven't really talked about there. You can see how far Jack's here. He's probably a car to half a car behind to behind Robbie, and you saw just round that 5th gear corner. It's probably not to do with car setup. It's just the fact of this turbulent air that the car in front's generating is just unsettling Jack's car behind. So he can't follow quite on the same line at the same speed. He's just getting a little bit more wash mid corner. So that's why we're going to see it slightly harder to follow through the corners, but then as you see when we go down the straight, he'll really close back up to Robbie going into turn 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And just some comments in the chat. We've got Jeff Edmondson, go Max Edmondson. We've got Steve Haley, my favourite track ever. I think that's a sarcastic comment from Steve, who absolutely hates Zandvoort. One of my favourites.
Is it sarcasm, that, is it?
It is, mate. It is, yeah. It's one of my favourites. As we're looking now at Epps trying to put a move on Brennan, these two have really got their heads down, and they have gapped the rest of the field by 1.5 seconds. But Epps is not letting Brennan get away. He's found his groove, and he's pulled that 0.5 second back, and he's now pushing Brennan and making him work for it. Hopefully they're not going to work too hard and destroy their tyres in the early parts of this race.
Yeah, and look who's in third place. Max Bird, he's just sitting there. It would be nice for him to just get a little bit further forward and possibly get into that slipstream. But yeah, Max Bird's there. If anything happens, he's going to pounce.
Yeah, definitely, and we've seen that before. We saw that in the Porsches. There are a few, the drivers use their heads. They're not just all about push and attack. Sometimes it is safer just to sit back, just to monitor what's going on in front of you, especially in a race where tyre management is critical, and it is a bit of an unknown for some of them. I think some of them will have run race distances and they will have tested, but very much so in anger, it's a different situation from a test. So it's very much see how that goes. We're looking at Epps and Brennan now, and Brennan is having to drive really defensively, which is going to start costing them time if they're not careful.
Yeah, Mike is looking very, very racy here, isn't he? He's looking for any opportunity to try and get past here, but this is where we might see it. If Mike can get a good run out here, I don't really see how Jordan's going to defend this going into turn 1.
No, absolutely not. Max Bird has closed that gap down. He was 1.5 seconds behind them, and now he's less than 1 second back, so he's closing in now. And look at the slipstream there for McIntyre on Stapleford as well, as they go 2 by 2 into turn 1. Stapleford has got the inside line and will defend it as long as McIntyre can't cut back, but he hasn't. He's hung him out to drive. But no, just being informed, Mike Epps has disconnected from the server. That's really bad luck on his first outing, having a really strong showing and what looked to be shaping up to a fantastic battle with Brennan for P1. That
is a huge shame. You saw there, going into turn 1, it looked like the move was just about to happen. And then, as you said, it looks like he's had a tech issue and he appeared in the pit. So these things do happen. Maybe a slight disconnection on his side. That's a big shame to see.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully he's all sorted and he can take to the grid for race 2.
Did I just catch Max Bird? I think just span it. I think he's maybe just caught a little bit of curve there and he span it, so he's dropped down to 7th place. Which has promoted Stapleford into 3rd, McIntyre up to 4th, Oliver 5th, and Walters 6th. But still currently out leading with 3 seconds of breathing space is Jordan Brennan now from Isaac Smith. So Jordan Brennan now really can start to manage that gap and, more importantly, manage those tyres and look to sort of bring this car home, in a sensible manner, shall I say, Dave, where he's protecting everything and he's not going to fall foul of tyres falling off a cliff. Yeah, so this is where Jordan really just needs to keep his head. It's very easy when you pull a 3-second lead just to start to switch off a bit and just forget about the rest of the race. But really, you need to be sort of maintaining your lap time, make sure you're maintaining that gap, because otherwise, before long, if you see Isaac or Robbie starting to work together with the slipstream, that can soon close that gap. Yeah, we're just looking at Edmondson now, who's just passed Mick Sutton on the straight, or has he? He has managed to get around the outside and into turn 1, although he's had to take a wider line. He's got the job done. Max Edmondson, I'm sure you'll agree, Dave, is probably slightly out of position there, down in 11th place. Would expect him to a bit higher. So he's making his way back through the fields. We're looking at Stapleford now, trying to go around Isaac Smith. That is brave on that corner, because you can soon end up in the kitty litter there. But he's as close as you would want to be, and again, he's trying to go around the outside. That is not the place to do it. Patience would be much better, in my opinion, there, as he's opened himself up now to McIntyre. And in fact, Isaac Smith has spun. Whether that was pressure, whether that was contact, I didn't quite see. I could be wrong. You can't say, because I wasn't on the car, but that to me looked like it was more like it was Isaac on the power rather than a slight tap. Just look, Jack was 0.4 of a second off going into the race, and through racecraft and just keeping it clean, he's up into 2nd place. Damage limitation is key.
Absolutely, yeah, and that is not. I mean, Jordan Brennan, as we said right at the beginning of the race, McIntyre down in 7th. Jordan Brennan's done what he needed to do, but so has McIntyre, like you say, with his racecraft and his skill. He's not the fastest man out there today, which is unusual for him, but he's certainly he's sort of doing what he needs to do. As we're looking at Walters now, who is attacking Oliver.
Yeah, so Walter showed some really good pace, so he's going to get the overlap here on speed, be incredibly brave to try and hang it around the outside on Charlie, which I believe he's got the move done. That is an incredible move. Good drive, Robin.
And Stapleford got the move done on McIntyre, I believe, into turn 1 as well. He's ahead of Jack now, so that position for second place has swapped round again. Stapleford pushing, so we've got the 3 overall championship rivals now in the top 3 positions. So it's just following on from the Porsches from the last couple of rounds, really, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah, exactly that. What's going to be interesting to see is whether Robin closed his gap onto the back of Jack. I think from practicing through quali, we saw Robin with just that little bit more pace than Jack. So it'll be interesting to see whether he can get onto the back of Jack, and that might help Robbie just get away and try and start to close that gap on Jordan. But saying that, Jordan's now pulled a 5-second advantage in this race. Huge disappointment that Mike's disconnected there. But yeah, can't take it away from Jordan. He's driving a fantastic race so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's lapping a good second a lap faster than the guys behind him at the moment. Hence why he's now round about the 5.1 second mark in breathing space. Be interesting to see if he does. I mean, we've got 10 minutes to go, but if he does bring it home in first place in the post-race interview, just to see how hard he was pushing or whether he has lifted, because his lap times at the moment don't say that he's lifted. He's lapping in the 35s, mid 35s consistently, which again, it's quicker than most of the guys out there, so he's definitely still pushing pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any of these drivers that aren't pushing to sort of the limits of what they can do. But yeah, as we see, Robin is closing that gap on Jack. It's come down to 7/10 now. And as I said before, once you sort of get this car within about half a second, 0.4 of a second, that's when that slipstream's really going to benefit, and we might see Jack under quite a lot of pressure in the next few laps.
But potentially from 2nd to 5th, the guys are all sort of, the sharing a relative small part of the track. They're all within a second of each other. So as you say, that slipstream, once it starts to take effect on each and every one of them, we could soon have a 3 and 4 car battle for that sort of P3 and P2 place, and it could get very, very interesting in the latter stages of this race. As we are sort of now over halfway through, we have now got 9 minutes and a lap to go, as we just seen Isaac Smith and Johnson and Dorman have gone up. So Max Bird's had another issue where he's lost a couple of positions there. Maybe a mistake, I'm not quite sure, I didn't see.
Yeah, I mean, he's dropped down there. Maybe this is the sign that, what are we, 10 minutes into the race? 10 minutes, probably 5 or 6 laps now. We might just start to see their back tyres really just starting to drop off. I think this race is definitely not over yet. It could get very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely not, and it's not going to be an easy track on the tyres with the high-speed corners, as we see that Stapleford is pretty much maintaining that steady gap between himself and McIntyre, as they both put in decent laps on that last lap. They've set their fastest times with 35.7s respectively, each of them, so they are pushing absolutely flat out. So like you say, it'll be interesting to see if anyone's tyres do fall off, and if there are any opportunities towards the back end of this race, i.e. the last 3 or 4 minutes, as we just see a car parked up at the side there. But yeah, definitely, and Oliver hasn't given up on Walters. He's half a second behind Walters, who has just dropped a little bit now to McIntyre. He's 1.1 off McIntyre in 3rd place. But Brennan, he's lost a little bit of time on that last lap, Dave. He's in 1st place still, obviously, but the gap is now down to 4 seconds. So has Jordan Brennan made a mistake, or is he just analysing the gap and he's just thinking, I just need to ease off a little bit, lift a bit, maybe not quite as much as he has? The gap is still 4 seconds, but that's a lot of time to lose in 1 lap.
Yeah, I think it was me that made the mistake there. I had my mic on mute. It's a case of, I was just saying myself, Robbie Stapleford's just starting to close that gap to Jordan. Jordan's maybe thinking, he's going to look after his tyres a little bit more, and maybe Robbie's getting a bit carried away and starting to push the car quite hard. But I was just thinking to myself there, for all of these F1 fanatics, Charlie's car here looks a bit reminiscent of, was it Ings Direct Formula Renault. Was it?
Renault, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, just a little fun F1 nerdy fact there.
Yeah, absolutely. We love some nerdy facts, Dave. It's just you're not normally the man to deliver nerdy facts, but yeah, we'll take them.
No, us two Northerners are probably more used to talking about flat caps and cups of tea. But as we just see there, is that Isaac Smith just getting a bit of a door bang there from Johnson?
Johnson, yeah, just showing his nose and going through, and we just start hearing that Walters, who's now dropped down a couple of places, has just made contact with the wall, so hopefully not too much damage, but he's certainly lost positions. So at the moment the current standings are Jordan Brennan in first place with 8 laps completed, 3.7 seconds ahead of Stapleford, so that gap is still coming down. Jack McIntyre in a very close third place, and Oliver in fourth. As we just seen there, that's Walters that ran off the track and just doesn't look too good. His steering input looks a little bit off there. I think that might be a retirement back to the pits in the safest way possible, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, that steering wheel is probably one of the most sensitive steering wheels of race cars you can drive, so to have that much rotation in his wheels not to even move, that's a very poorly steering rack, I would have thought.
Absolutely, mate. A lot of work to do in the intermission for that pit crew to get him back out in race 2. But yeah, so I'll just go back to the leaderboard now, because Jordan Brennan is 3.6 seconds ahead of Stapleford, who is 0.8 of a second ahead of McIntyre, who is 3.6 ahead of Oliver. Johnson in 5th, Isaac Smith in 6th, who are following round at the moment, Max Bird 7th, Dorman 8th, Edmondson 9th, and Walters down in 10th at the moment. But the guys, they've kept it relatively close. There's little clusters of races here and there, but they've spread out a little bit in these last few laps. But I think that's more down to incidents, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it just shows. I mean, unfortunately, Mike Epps had the disconnection, but there's been a surprising amount of people without any contact, just having little spins here and there. I think this is a real sign of the cars are probably getting a little bit more of a handful here to drive. As we just see Isaac, I reckon he's probably close enough here just to get a bit of slipstream here and close right onto the back of Johnson.
Yeah, but look at that gap at the front as well. While we watch Smith and Johnson, Brennan and Stapleford is now down to 1.1 seconds. So what has happened to Brennan? Has he made a mistake again? That's not managing the gap, as it were. So there's been an issue there, because he's now got Stapleford and McIntyre literally breathing down his neck, respectively a second behind each.
Yeah, definitely. That's not just taking it easy to lose sort of 2 seconds. I'm just trying to figure out what's gone on there, but maybe that was just a slight slide, or I don't think it's not enough for a spin, not the gap that he built up. Or has Jordan pushed his tyres too hard at the start of the race? Is this a sign that he's run out of grip and Robbie's maybe on a hard tyre compound?
Yeah, and I mean, these cars are open for the guys to tweak setups to adjust what they want within the limits of the simulation, but that does include an awful lot of things with reference suspension, tracking, aero, diff settings. So if he's got the car set up at all slightly loose and he's losing traction and sliding the car a bit, that's going to take a lot of life out of the tyres. If he's driving it on that knife edge, who knows? I mean, we've just seen him twitching a little bit there. It'd be interesting to see how he gets out of this corner, turn 3. But it all looks relatively tidy. But Stapleford is definitely on the attack now, and with the speed that he's made up, the gap that he's made up, you would have to certainly say that he's almost got the pace to do Jordan Brennan. As Jordan Brennan's last lap was a 1:39.1, Robbie Stapleford's was a 1:36.2.
Yeah, so I think that was definitely Jordan must have had an issue there to drop that much time. But we're just watching here. Jordan's car doesn't look particularly nervous. He's moving the car around a little bit, but not excessively. But Robbie Stapleford is right in that bracket now. These cars don't have DRS, which would normally be an F1, which is a flap that opens, that gives you even greater straight line speed if you're within a second. But these cars do have that much aero, that slipstream really becomes a big factor. So, Robbie's right on the back of Jordan here, going onto this main start-finish line straight. Watch this gap going into turn 1.
Yeah, it's looking like Isaac Smith's had another issue as well, as he's dropping down the field. He's now down in 9th place, but he's just had left the track somewhere. But yeah, Robbie Stapleford is now pretty much close enough to gain benefit from the slipstream. Whether he'll gain enough to be side by side into turn 1, but we saw a couple of corners ago. He's certainly late on the brakes, and he's now looking to close that gap up even further. And he does get right onto the gearbox of Brennan, but he's nowhere near close enough to make a move. But he's certainly close enough to keep putting that pressure on. And now it's Jack McIntyre's turn to sit in 3rd place and just keep a watching brief at this moment.
Yeah, Robbie might be thinking here that Jordan's actually really starting to hold him up. He's going to have to get a move done, otherwise he's going to have Jack right on his back end. As we see, Robbie's
contact
in dirty air.
Was that just dirty air, you think?
That might have been dirty air with just riding a little bit of curb on the inside, but I mean, what a recovery that was. That was probably a 5th gear, so 130 mile an hour moment across the grass in these cars. To save that from going in the wall, that is some drive.
Yeah, absolutely. But what it has done is let Jack McIntyre back up into 2nd place now. So Robbie Stapleford's got that move to do again. Can Jack McIntyre maintain the pressure on Brennan, or will he be too busy looking in his mirrors? Has Jack found the pace that he was missing in qualifying? We will see in the next 1 minute to go before the completion of the time of the race. Then they have to complete another full lap after the clock strikes 0. So we've got a couple of laps of racing left at least for Jack to try and close that gap up, and I think he is. He's closing up on Brendan, isn't he? He's closing that gap down.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to try and find out what tyres they went out on in the race, whether this is the difference between medium and hard, whether or not, you know, Jordan pulled that big gap at the start because he's run the medium compound tyres, and maybe the hards are really just coming at their own towards the end of the race. But yes, it is looking like Jack is very racy here, but I think Robbie Stapleford probably needs to try and get on the back of Jack ASAP. And you know, we might see Jordan, especially through the tighter corners, trying to almost back Jack up a little bit to try and get Robbie into that slipstream.
Yeah, definitely. You know, maybe Jordan will think like that, but certainly Stapleford is going to try and push and close that gap himself. Although he's a 2nd down, I'm not quite sure what damage he would have picked up from that off-track excursion, because I do believe he did make contact with the barriers, albeit very slight. So hopefully there's not too much of an issue. But Brennan, it looks like he's definitely struggling. I don't think it is that he's been making too many mistakes, Dave. I think he's genuinely struggling with the pace of the car.
Yeah, I mean, looking at lap times, you know, it's nowhere near the 39 that he set a few laps ago. He's still lapping 2 seconds faster than that, so that was definitely a big incident he had to lose the big amount of time. But yeah, he is definitely lapping slower than especially Jack and Robbie Stapleford. So this is going to have to be one hell of a defensive drive.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's lapping slower than 4th place Charlie Oliver, 5th place Martin Johnson. So he's definitely struggling, and he's now full defence as they're going side by side now, as Jack McIntyre is really trying to put the pressure on as they go through the final corner now, and he's trying to make that move, and he's probably going to slot back in and get tight slipstream, but I'm not quite sure how far past he's got on him. But Robbie Stapleford's also there, albeit not closer. They're side by side now going into turn 1. Jack McIntyre is going to have to try and put it around the outside, as Jordan Brennan was very late on the brakes and pretty much almost parked it to stop McIntyre there, and all's fair in love and war, and he's managed to maintain that position, although side by side. And this could give, if Jack can keep it there, he's got the inside line, and he's going to get that move done into turn 3.
Yeah, I don't know whether that was maybe a slight bit of tactics or whether that was just really good racing, but Jordan Brennan will have the advantage now here on the slipstream. But credit to Mike, who does the stream from Simply Race. That was a great camera angle for turn 1. It just really let us know exactly what was going on.
Yeah, absolutely, because some of the camera angles can make it tricky just to judge where they are. But Jack McIntyre now hits the front at the all-important time at the end of the race, with Jordan Brennan hanging on.
Jordan Brennan span it. He just lost the back end there as we came out of one of the turns. That is an absolute disaster.
That is potentially a tyre issue, isn't it? It'd be very interesting, although he's not on the podium, so potentially we may not get an interview from him, but it would be interesting to know what tyres he's gone out on. But definitely, Jack McIntyre now, potentially with this race finish, is going to climb back to the top of the standings in the championship, and Robbie Stapleford has done his championship no harm whatsoever. He's currently sat in 3rd place in the championship, but 2nd in the race, so he's having a great event this evening, and he'll actually be probably kicking himself for that mistake earlier, because it could have been him in 1st place right now.
Well, you couldn't not have predicted that at the start of the race. You know, 7th place start for Jack McIntyre, and through racecraft and keeping it clean, he's brought the car home in first place. Well done, Jack.
Yeah, well done to Jack McIntyre in first place. Robbie Stapleford brings it home in second. Oliver brings it home into third place. Brennan, he'll be upset with that, but he brings it home in fourth. Johnson in fifth. It's looking like Max Edmondson is going to potentially bring it home in sixth place, as we see. There he goes over the line.
That's a really good finish for Max Edmondson, that actually, because I think in this early start of the race, I believe I saw him down in sort of 14th, 15th place. So to bring it home in sixth, that's quite a good drawback there for Max.
Yeah, absolutely. So Max Edmondson 6th, Dorman in 7th, Bird in 8th. He's had a few issues during the race. Smith in 9th, Carroll 10th, and it's looking like Sutton's going to bring it home in 11th, Lamy 12th. Gallagher will be 13th and Walters 14th, Fairclough 15th, and then we've got Mike Epps down in 16th.
Yeah, so I've just heard there that unfortunately Mike's technical issue wasn't due to internet connection. It was just the fact that one of the messages that enables to see drive-through penalties and cutting tracks wasn't on screen. So maybe he just got a slight jump on the line and had to serve a drive-through, but because the message wasn't on screen and he didn't do the drive-through, he then got disqualified and put in the pit lane after 3 laps. So unfortunate for Mike, but I'm sure he'll come back fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jack McIntyre, just to repeat, first place. Robbie Stapleford second. Charlie Oliver in third place. Jordan Brennan, disappointed, but still a fair result, fourth place. Martin Johnson fifth. Max Edmondson sixth. Andy Dorman seventh. Max Bird eighth. Isaac Smith ninth. Andy Carroll rounds out the top 10. Mick Sutton 11th. Paul Larami 12th. Tony Gallagher 13th. Robin Walters 14th. Will Fairclough 15th. Mike Epson 16th after that unfortunate disqualification, as we've just heard from Dave there. So yeah, top 12 reverse grid for race 2 coming very shortly. But I think first of all, Dave, there's some guys want to talk to us in the interview room.
Yeah, we'll pop down there and give them a chat.
I'll let you lead, buddy. I'll follow you down.
No bother. Well, who do we start with here? Probably go to our third place finisher, Charlie Oliver. As we noticed, your car reminiscent of a Renault Ings Direct F1 car. But yeah, impressive drive to bring it home in third. The car's obviously suiting you a lot better than the Porsches.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, it was a difficult race. I had some damage actually. I picked up a little bit, just touched the wall, so it didn't feel quite right for the second half. Yeah, I'm actually surprised to be on the podium, but it's good, and the car, it doesn't look too bad, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great looking car, that, isn't it? So you've got the Veloce driving, who's Cat Impey's esports team there. It's good to see you representing them. But yeah, how did you find the car after sort of the 10 minutes? I mean, I presume you were running on the mediums, but are you noticing a big tyre drop off?
Yeah, big thanks to Veloce, to Kat, Mike Epps as well as with them, and to Yanni de Prins as well for the some help with the setup. But yeah, the main thing is with the medium, after about 15 minutes or so, the rears are just dead. And I think a couple of people in front dropped it, a couple behind dropped it, just getting on the power. So it's very difficult balance to have between doing a quick lap time and looking after the rears.
Oh well, I think you did a great job to get through the field, and you had a slight excursion into the wall, but the majority you kept it clean, and it's a good solid finish to bring it home in third.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Hopefully we can be back on podium next one.
Yeah, good luck, mate.
Cheers, buddy.
And on to second place, Robbie Stapleford. That they look difficult to race. If I'm honest, they look very difficult. How did you find it?
Well, got a good start and then ran a bit wide at the first corner, and then just started to make my way through, and then Brennan made a mistake and then got behind Brennan, and then once I got behind Brennan, the rear tyre started to go, and then coming down the back straight into the quick right-hander, I just lost it, and then I thought I was going to hit the wall and that would be race over, but luckily I didn't and carried on. So
yeah, we saw that. I didn't know whether it was a collision there with Jordan, or was it just the dirty air and you just caught a little bit of curb on the inside. It was enough to throw the car sideways at probably 130.
I didn't make no collision. It was just dirty air, I think, and just took too much curb and then just turned a bit too much and just lost the rear. So
Yeah, well, you'll probably hear me giving you the credit for what a save that was. I thought that was definitely wall bound, so you did an extremely good job to keep that out the wall. Well done, Rob.
Yeah, start practicing with you. Constantly go sideways.
Yeah, we do like a good mark too. Spot on, Robbie. Good race result.
Thank you.
No what? And on to our very, very surprising race winner, Jack Mack from 7th on the grid.
No one's more surprised than me. That was bonkers. I don't really know what happened. If I'm honest, I couldn't tell you anything that happened in the last 20 minutes. Apart from Robbie's brilliant save, I thought he was in the wall there. I almost stopped on the track because I didn't know where he was going to go, and then he just magically kept going. So that was brilliant. But
yeah, I mean, it was definitely reminiscent of a certain Max Verstappen, where he managed to keep it out of the walls by just hitting brakes and lifting off and throwing the wheel certain ways. But yeah, how did you find that race? I mean, open wheel, I don't know whether you would agree with this, but maybe it's not necessarily your forte. You know, you're being used to more the GT and touring car style stuff. But how was it to actually race wheel to wheel in these? Because I would find it very daunting.
yeah, it's terrifying. Like you say, with the GT style and touring cars, you can get a bit of bumping and get real close to each other without the fear of, you know, touching tires and someone pinging off into the sky. So it's really scary. But I just kind of just forgot about it a little bit, raced it a little bit like a touring car. Had the battle with Jordan at the start of the last lap, too wide all the way through the first complex was pretty scary. But I just stuck it in there. Thought, you know, I'd been gifted the chance to go for the win. I think Mike had a disconnect or something, which is unfortunate because I think he probably would have just run away with the whole race. But you know, I got a bit of luck this time, so I didn't want to let it go to waste.
Yeah, we did actually see the Mike Epps disconnection, unfortunately, but he's shown himself to have some serious pace straight away. I mean, he's not starting too far off behind you, or are you just looking straight forward for this race?
I think I need to focus a little bit more on the whole season. I think last time around in the Porsches, I was focusing on race by race and just trying to get the best result. I wasn't really looking at the big picture, and I think that's probably what cost me in the end. So, yeah, just hoping for a clean race, get eight scores on the board, then we'll see where we are.
Oh well, it's a great finish that, Jack. Good start the season. I'll let you go and get your head in it, and yeah, good luck for the race.
Yeah, good luck,
Cheers,
Jack.
mate, thank you. Cheers, Steve.
Very surprised, Jack McIntyre there, and Robbie Stapleford as well. You know, the podium guys all did a fantastic job there, but we are lining up now for the race 2, which is the top 12 reverse grid. So Jack McIntyre, Robbie Stapleford and Charlie Oliver now will find themselves in the midst of the pack, and it'll be very, very interesting to see how they manage to, if at all, fight their way through these formula cars, Dave.
Yeah, I would not like to be in Jack's position right now. I know I said that for the last round of the Porsche, but for me, there's nothing more nervous than 3 cars going into turn 1, open wheels, any chance for wheel-to-wheel contact. It's just, it's not a nice place to be, that.
It's not, is it? And as Jack said there, he's going to try and focus more on the championship, so maybe he's going to be, not that he doesn't anyway, but taking a more controlled approach, shall we say, maybe a sit back a little bit more. I mean, in that first race, when he was sat in 3rd place, we did see him sit back, but it certainly paid off and he got the win there, so it will be interesting to see what he does, as we are now just waiting for the lights. They are going on, so we will hold them full reds, and it will be lights out and away we go. Looking like it's a clean start so far, running down 3 wide into turn 1. Jack McIntyre already getting into the middle of the pack as they go 2 by 2 now, currently into turn 1, all looking pretty clean and all fair and square through turn 1, filing through very, very close. Like you say, it's a scary place to be in the middle of that pack, Dave.
I was just going to say that. I was going to say it's an incredibly good clean start, but I think I'm going to have to jump in because that is definitely a safety car.
Yeah, okay, Dave, we'll let you get to the safety car, mate, and slow them all up, and let's get the restart underway as we just watching the cars now take back to the track, and the guys will get the message now. Once Dave's gone to that safety car, he will over Discord tell all the drivers it's a safety car issue. As we can see now, they're all lifting off the powers. They will start to weave to try and keep some of the heat in the tyres now, as they literally follow each other around in single file, waiting to pick up the safety car, and then we'll get this race back underway. Potentially, usually it's around about 1 lap behind the safety car, and then the leader, who is currently at the moment Mick Sutton, will get us back underway racing. So yeah, very, very interesting. A new discipline for a lot of these drivers tonight. Race 1 was a very, very clean start, but obviously race 2, just a little bit of contact there, and as we saw, it was very, very close in the middle of the pack, and a little bit too close at times, and we saw, I think there was around about 3 cars there all off. Hopefully not too much damage, but what the safety car does now is it will give them time to close back up, get back onto the end of the pack. We will then get racing underway, and it should then just be a clean race to the checkered flag, as we see the safety car just waiting to collect them up now at the end of the start-finish straight on the entry to turn 1. I expect Dave will take them round just for that one lap, as we are now on board with Mick Sutton, and he's just slowing the pack back down again now, and it's up to Mick now to control the restart at the point when the safety car goes in. Obviously, ideally, he will, once we're about 2/3 of the way around, allow enough time. They'll slow the pack up to get that safety car out of the way. Dave will take the safety car in, and Mick just needs to leave himself enough of a gap so that he can floor it at the time of his choosing. He's in full control of this restart, and we saw the safety car have major impacts at restarts in the Porsche Cup races. A couple of drivers really took full advantage of it and managed to gap the rest of the field by really acing the restart. So it'll be interesting to see how Mick manages this one. Mick is one of the newer drivers to VRRC, although he's taken part in a couple of championships so far. He's the driver I was talking about earlier, who has made a lot of improvements just through consistency, just putting a lot of practice in. He's still not the fastest driver on the track, but he's getting more and more consistent, and at this moment in time he finds himself at the front of 16 cars on the track, 15 of them all behind him. So he's now following Dave, who's in that safety car, and he's now, you can see, he's just letting the safety car pull away a little bit. He's really going to be focusing now, and this is the point where he really wants to let that car get away from him a little bit, and so he can really nail it round this final corner. We are now coming into the final corner, and I would expect Mick to start to floor it anytime soon. He's created that gap. The safety car is going to be going in, and I believe Mick is flooring it now, and the restart is underway, and the guys are getting away. Has Mick got any sort of a gap? It looks like he's got a very small gap, but he's going to have to potentially defend down into turn 1 as the cars start to weave and start to show the nose. Looks like Isaac Smith was going to try and dive down the inside, but thought better of it as Mick Sutton closed the door, and it's looking like a relatively clean restart, and there's a couple of them going side by side through turn 1, but they're all following through fairly nicely, fairly clean and pretty tidy. That good restart from Mick Sutton, though, defended well from Isaac Smith and did a cracking job, although he's coming under massive pressure at the moment from Isaac Smith, but did a really good job on the restart. Well done to Mick Sutton there.
You can take a breath now, Steve. I'm back on the driving seat.
Take a breath, think I need a pint, mate.
I tell you what, that is nerve-wracking, driving that and knowing that I'm going to have to come in here, commentate, and I was thinking, do not spin this.
Mate, I think we should have had you on live comms in the pace car there. As Mick Sutton now, Isaac Smith has got that move done. He was looking like he was wanting to get through right from the restart. Mick did well to hold him off at the restart into turn 1, defended very, very well. But Isaac Smith has got the move done and has got out into the front. And Isaac's certainly got the pace to put a gap on and pull away.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just seeing them. Is that Max Bird that's got himself up to second place? I believe there. That is incredible driving.
Absolutely, excuse me. I'm just looking at Stapleford still down in 11th. Jack McIntyre and Jordan Brennan. Though Jordan Brennan up to 4th now, and Jack McIntyre in 6th.
Yeah, and also look behind. Mike Epps is on a charge. Watch him for the win here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I overlooked Mike Epps. Apologies, Mike, but yeah, up to 7th place there. So he's having a fantastic race too now after his disappointment of race 1. And it's looking like there's a few guys. I mean, just when you look back down that straight there, you've got 3 almost 4 wide at the front, but even right back down the straight, they were coming down 2, 3 and 4 wide. Absolutely fantastic racing, wheel to wheel, very, very close. As Mike Epps, like you say, is really putting the pressure on. He's looking to fight his way through the field, and he has made another place up. He's up into 6th place, and he's right up with Jack McIntyre now, and it looks like he's actually Jack McIntyre's dropped down to 7th.
Yeah, so we just see them here behind Mick Sutton. You know, this must be terrifying for Mick. You know, you got Mike Epps Jack, as we're seeing there,
the
my
grass.
God, with the Mike Epps over the curb on the inside there, trying to get past. Mick's not making this easy for them.
Absolutely not. I mean, Mike was almost on full send there, but I do think he just had to lift off a little bit as he almost got four wheels onto the grass. But he's certainly, you know, Mick. I was talking while we were following you around in the safety car. I was just talking about Mick's improvement and his consistency. And one thing he's showing is he can defend.
Yeah. I mean, look at this. You wouldn't think this is someone that's new to the sim world. I mean, I know his son George, you know, has had a very good break in the mini challenge. Oh, as we just see Mick there, just slightly outbraking himself. That's just allowed Mike to get through. But look at the gap that Jordan's managed to pull because of Mick's defending. Mike's going to have his head down here.
Yeah, he's going to have his head down, but it'd be interesting again to see what happens with the tyres, as we saw that, you know, the tyres are an issue, and Jordan in the first race was really struggling with the tyres towards. But I would say he only had 2/3 where he wasn't struggling. The last sort of 4 or 5 laps he was struggling, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, we heard from Charlie there that it's really the last sort of 5 minutes that there's no rear tyres left. So that's sort of the part where you have to sort of pull back the pace a bit, make sure you just keep it on the road. But I mean, how wasn't that a collision there? That was phenomenal driving.
Walters on what my son would call a full send, as we just seen Sutton dropping there. Unfortunately, Mick, after a fantastic start to this race, and it was some great opening defences, has just fallen foul to maybe a little bit too much pressure, maybe a bit too much right foot, not quite sure, but I'm sure we may find out in the chat afterwards. But it sent him 180 degrees the wrong way, and it's lost him a lot of positions. Now he's currently down in 12th, so unlucky to Mick, but I think he can take a lot of credit from that restart and the defending.
Yeah, as we just see Charlie there just nibbling at the back. I think that was Andy Dorman he hit. That's just a bit of a shame there, but that was maybe just a gap that was closing as he went for it. As we see, he's got front aero damage, so maybe the front is feeling quite a bit more vague than he would like it to.
Yeah, absolutely. And the difficulty with the Formula cars is, I don't suppose anybody needs me to tell them, but basically you're not rubbing doors. When you get inside somebody here, you're tangling axles, and that doesn't end well. Usually it ends in someone coming off worse than the other, if not both of you off into the barriers. But Isaac Smith 2 seconds out into the lead from Max Edmondson. Johnson in 3rd place, looking to try and close up on Edmondson, but Jordan Brennan, Mike Epps, Jack McIntyre and Stapleford all putting reasonable laps in and closing the gaps up.
Yeah, it's worth saying Martin Johnson was another newcomer to the VRRC Championships, going into the Porsches, and you know he came in being friends with Robin Walters, and both of them said they're struggling with the car slightly, them being relatively new to the whole championship sort of thing. But I mean, there's no denying here he's definitely got the grasp of this car.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's impressive, to be honest. The boys right through the field, it looks, you can tell they've been putting the hours in, they've been putting the practice in, many laps done, working on setups. A little birdie told me that you're responsible for some of the base setups, Dave, that are out there, but definitely they're showing a lot of skill in these cars, and it is, don't get, make no mistake, transition from a Porsche Cup to one of these cars, it's a big transition to make.
Yeah, so just to explain, as part of 1010s, we sell base setups for these cars that you can buy for the Tatus or the Porsche, for instance, last season. So you pay a fee for the setup, but then with a further fee you can top it up and get a full lesson. That helps turn that base setup into a more bespoke, tuned for you sort of setup. So there's probably a good 8 drivers on this grid that are running with what was my base setup, and it's proven to be a good base to work from, and it's proven to be a very level playing field.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the boys are all putting in pretty good laps at the moment. The front 3, last lap was low 36.2 from Smith, 36.1 Edmondson, 36.1 from Johnson. But Jordan Brennan, he's done a 35.8. Mike Epps 35.5, Jack McIntyre 35.7. So those 3 cars behind are running quite a few tenths quicker than those 3 cars up front. So the gap's going to get smaller and smaller, and we're going to see some on-track battling very, very soon if they can survive the aero wash.
Yeah, so we might just be seeing here, without doubt, Mike Epps is on fire. He's pushing hard. But we may be seeing here Jack McIntyre just sort of using that slipstream to hang on and, you know, do what he did in the first race. Just keep it consistent, keep it together, and just keep driving up, and who knows where he'll finish.
Yeah, and I'm going to mention Robbie Stapleford as well. He was in the 35s as well with his last lap, and even Robin Walters in 8th was a 36 dead. So the top 8 are pretty much they're on it. They're putting the lap times in, but we've got 3-4 standout drivers at the moment who are in the 35s, and it's not the front 3. So there's going to be a battle very, very soon, I think, and it's going to involve all of those cars on screen at this time.
Yeah, I'm just watching the timing here. I'm just wondering whether Mike Epps is close enough this lap to get Martin Johnson into turn 1. I'd imagine he's definitely going to have a look. In fact, he's already side by side, so that's going to answer my question.
He got a fantastic run out of that last corner. You could see that he couldn't sit there any longer. He needed to pull out, and he's got that move done as they enter the braking zone now, and he's up into 3rd place. A great move and well planned out, fantastic racecraft, and that was set up a couple of corners before that last turn. Although it has to be said, Johnson's still trying to stuff it back up the inside, and he's spun. Maybe just lost the back end there, but that's promoted Brennan to 4th place, McIntyre to 5th, Stapleford to 6th as Johnson carries on dropping down the field, unfortunately.
I'm gutted for Martin there. That was just a case of, you know, feeling the pressure, a very tight track. You've got Mike Epps one side, Jordan the other, and I think he just got a little bit right foot happy there and just lost the back end into the wall. And unfortunately, these cars in the wall, it's quite big damage aero-wise. You know, they're quite impacting around corners, but more so in a straight line. It just kills your top speed. So real shame for Martin there. But to be fair, he's still holding a solid 7th place behind Robbie at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the driving style of any of these open wheeler formula cars is you've got to really push them in the corners, and you've got to have that aero working, you've got to have it intact. But if you do push that a little bit too hard on the right foot, and you just you know, you're hooking it up, you can break traction, and once you've broken traction, it's a sort of a hang on and wait and see what happens. But and also if you've got any aero damage, then obviously you can't do the first point mentioned, which is push really hard into the corners, because they do respond well to being pushed hard, these cars, and you've really got to use that aero to the benefit, and the harder you push, the better they go.
Yeah, look at Mike Epps again. That second to last corner, just get the drive out and look at the slipstream. Is he going to go for a move here? He's put his nose out. He's definitely let Max know that he's going for a move there. Max is going to try and hold it around the outside, but Mike's got the job done. Good drive, Mike.
That was job done from the moment that Max didn't defend there for me. I was surprised he didn't pull across. As we see Epps there just lighting the back end up, that's not going to do his tyre wear any good. He just spinning the back end up and stepping out, but brought it all back under control and has maintained that 2nd place. Now he's going to try and close that gap to Smith, which I think he'll do, but it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. We've got 5 minutes and 40 odd seconds to go, but is Mike Epps taking on too much life out of those tyres? He didn't have the full run in race 1, did he? He's not really sure what to expect, I don't think.
No, I mean, such limited time in this car. Yeah, I don't imagine he will know at all what the car's going to do in this remaining 5 minutes. So he's going to purely learn on the spot. In 2nd place, fighting for this win, which is not exactly an ideal spot to be learned from. But yeah, you just saw the back end step out there. Exactly the same sort of thing that happened to Martin Johnson. As we see Max Edmonds here trying to actually come back at Mike Epps very late on the brakes, but Mike Epps has got that covered. You know, Max needs to be smart here. He needs to work with Mike Epps here and try and pull away from Jordan. Otherwise, they're going to end up with Jordan and McIntyre joining onto this battle.
Yeah, and it's looking like Max is trying to stay close enough to get the slipstream from Epps, but we know how good Epps is out of this last corner onto the start-finish straight. And again, he's just managed to gap, but he's weaving now to try and break the toe. Max Edmondson is close enough to pick up the slipstream, but I don't think he's close enough to get into the braking zone alongside Epps and do anything about him in 2nd place, and he's not. He's, like you say, he just needs to really work with him, but maybe that's too little too late, because it looks like Brennan and McIntyre are already there. They're going to start pushing Max Edmondson. I think he's going to have to divert his attention rearward at any second now.
Yeah, this is great to see, isn't it? I mean, look at this, 4 cars separated probably by a car in between, all separated by about 0.4 of a second. You know, this has proven to be some really, really good, solid race in this championship.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fantastic race. But let's look at Edmondson and Brennan there. Brennan is really, he's weaving in the mirrors of Edmondson, letting his know there. Epps isn't closing in on Smith maybe quite as fast as I thought it would be. He's managed to gap Edmondson a little bit, probably enough to break the toe as they come out onto the start-finish straight, but he's not lapping an awful lot faster. In fact, Mike Epps' last lap, obviously, he was battling was a 36.8. Isaac Smith was a 36.4, so it'll be interesting to see what Mike's lap time is this time round.
Yeah, I mean, Mike's starting to gap Max Edmondson here. Just starting to edge it a little bit, but as you say, Isaac's monitoring that gap. He'd be wary that, you know, he doesn't want to try and open that gap too much, because the tyres are probably at the point where you saw in the previous lap with Mike Epps that, you know, the back end just wants to step out and kill you at any opportunity. So, you know, Isaac's going to be hopefully in control of his tyres. As we see, who was that? Was that Stapleford, I think, crashing onto the start-finish line? Yeah, I believe so. That's a very, very strange place to have a crash.
Yeah, strange and unfortunate as Stapleford's had last few races have been cracking for him. He's had some solid results to put him third in the championship overall. Just in the chat, Max Bird just mentioned his lost connection, so that's Max obviously out of the race, and unfortunately no points for race 2 for Max. But Isaac Smith, could be that if, shall I say, when Mike Epps catches him, he might have taken too much out of his tyres, as we've just seen Edmondson and McIntyre going wheel to wheel there, and it looks like Edmondson just hanging on to 4th place, although Jack's not given up on him yet, and we know how tenacious Jack can be, and he's certainly putting Max under a lot of pressure right now, and he's keeping him very, very honest, and he's I think it's a matter of time, isn't it, before he's past Max?
Yeah, well, you know what I'm going to say, you know, in the Porsche, you know, there was a come together between Max and Jack. Are they going to be thinking of that right now? I would imagine Jack probably is, if I'm honest with you. But I think he's probably got it up the inside here. That's job done as far as I'm concerned. Max needs to just get his head down here, focus on getting a good exit out of this last corner, and try and getting Jack back into turn 1.
Absolutely, yeah. Epps is 1.7 off the back of Smith at the moment, but yeah, just seeing there, is that Brennan that's
Brennan again?
Spun it again. So that's Brennan dropping down. That's Epps up is still in 2nd place. McIntyre up to 3rd. Edmondson 4th. Brennan's down to 5th, and I think he'll stabilise there in 5th place, regroup, and just try and bring that car home. And he'll put a bit of heat into those tyres, so he's going to have to go around a little bit steady at the moment till he gets everything back to what is to be considered as normal temperatures.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan, to be fair, has got probably about a 10-second gap to 6th place here, because 6th place is Martin Johnson. So we saw Martin Johnson have the spin, so he's got a little bit of a buffer there, back to 6th place. But, you know, he'll want to bring it home, and he'd be gutted that he's just thrown away some valuable points there for the championship. But maybe we're seeing that, you know, Jordan's got really good pace in the car, but is maybe really struggling when the car gets lighter and has more worn rear tyres. So maybe that's something definitely needs to have a look at in the setup for the next race.
Yeah, definitely. It's just another challenge of driving these cars. But just a mention on the lap times that Mike Epps did a 1:36.8. Isaac Smith, who's in front of him in the lead, did a 1:36.9. So Mike Epps was only a 10th faster, albeit faster, but he's only got literally sort of one or at the most 2 more laps to close that gap of 1.2 seconds down. It's visual, and when it's visual like that on the track, Dave, that does help, doesn't it, when you're the chasing driver?
Without doubt it helps. You know, he's going to have the bit between his teeth going, that is the win, I want it, let's have it. But, you know, I've watched Isaac, you know, anyone who wants to go and watch Isaac race, probably at the pinnacle of his career at the moment, you know, last race round, I believe it was Knockhill in the JCW Minis, you know, held on for I don't know how many laps and brought home his first win in it. So I hope I've got that right in the details. But yeah, phenomenal driver. This lad knows how to defend.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's you know, he's doing what he needs to do, and you always that question's still there, isn't it? That has Mike Epps taken a lot more out of his tyres than Isaac Smith has, and even if Mike Epps catches him, has he got the traction, the grip to actually do anything about Isaac, who's in front of him? I would put my money, unless Isaac makes any sort of mistake, that it's his race now to throw away.
Yeah, what I'm a bit nervous about is, you know, as we just see Mike there, you saw a little twitchy and sideways that's getting through there. So Mike's tyres are definitely not primed there. But yeah, unfortunately, it's one of them things. But yeah, I'm a bit worried. For Mike hasn't raced against Isaac on a sim before. Isaac is known as being a very, very good defensive driver, but also he's not afraid, to use his car to block. Mike probably doesn't know this, so if this comes together, we'll wait and see what happens. But this could be fireworks and play right into Jack McIntyre's hands.
Yeah, well, it's all going to happen now. I think with just one more lap to go, they're going to come round and cross the line to take them on to the last lap. And Isaac Smith is going to have to defend an 0.8 of a second lead, as we see Mike Epps just weaving there, trying to pick up that's the race over, actually. Sorry, my mistake. Yeah, Isaac Smith takes the win, so well done. Sorry, apologies for that. I thought there was one more lap to go, but Isaac Smith takes the win. Mike Epps in second, Jack McIntyre third, Edmondson fourth, Brennan brings it home in fifth. Again, he'll be disappointed with that, but it's a solid result for the championship. Johnson in sixth, Walters in seventh, Dorman in 8th, looking like Andy Carroll will bring it home in 9th, with Oliver crossing the line in 10th. Oliver not having the best race 2 after his fantastic race in race 1. Mick Sutton, brilliant start to this race, defended really well. As I say that, he's just lost it again, and he's looking like he's just struggling to get it back square again and facing the right way. But doing his best to kill those tyres on the last lap. But he's going to bring it home in 11th place now. He's got pointed in the right direction. We've got Lamy down in 12th.
Yeah, I mean, he's paid his entry into the championship. He's going to use all the tyres he's got, isn't he? So yeah, that was just our fault, really. We didn't quite catch that, but I think it was a case of the timer had just gone over as Isaac crossed the line, hence why we were thinking there was going to be another lap, but he must have crossed it with about a millisecond spare. So yeah, fair play to Isaac. What a victory. Good defensive drive. Might things have been different had it gone to another lap with Mike behind. Looking at the lap times, maybe not, but phenomenal drive for Mike. He was starting at the very back to come away with the second place. He's rescuing his championship there.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be said that was a solid performance from Isaac Smith. He managed to hit the front and he managed to maintain the gap when it mattered, albeit it came down to sort of round about 0.8. But I think we're going to drop down to the interview room now, Dave.
Yep.
So we'll drop down and again I'll follow your lead, buddy.
No bother. Right then, down the interview room, I believe we've got Mike Epps there, second place in race 2. From the back, could you have hoped for much more, or let's face it, you were wanting the win there, weren't you?
Yeah, that was quite a race actually. The way the tyres fall off on this car, I've not done a run that long yet, so I was finding out, lap by lap, but it just lets go on you mid-corner and you have this almighty moment, and I probably lost 2 or 3 seconds over the last, 6 or 7 laps, 1 defending and 2 having little moments like that. And it's
I was actually saying that in the stream, and I said, of all the times you want to be learning, where's the limit of the tyre and how it drops off?
Yeah.
When you're fighting for the win after you've come through from the back, it's not an ideal scenario, that really.
No, it's quite a sudden sort of loss of grip as well. It's a little bit like you hit oil with the rear end or something. So I get what the tyre build is. It makes sense, but it's probably because you don't have the other senses you have in a real car that it feels so drastic. So you go into a corner and then bang, the rear's gone.
Yeah, I take it you probably didn't do any testing, but I take it the hards didn't ever come into the option. Maybe then would have lasted the extra 5 minutes of that race, and you got back your time that you maybe lose on the outlap, or are you thinking that it's that important to get that pace, and get the positions on the early laps?
I'll probably give them a go and then tell everyone the opposite of what I find out, eh?
that's a very good racing driver.
I'm going to say spoken like a true racing driver.
That was challenging. There were some tough races out there, and a couple of guys definitely wanted to make it hard for me to come through, which is completely fair enough as well. So definitely up against it. I was looking at the guy in the lead, thinking it's so close at 0.8 over the line. and I lost like a second 2 laps from the end, just having a massive moment. So I was sat there like, oh, he threw it away. But
yeah, I think we're on board at that moment. Now I was saying, second place. You saw how sketchy that moment was, and we actually thought there was another lap left, but there wasn't. But I was thinking, Mike, just settle for second here. It's good points for the championship. Unfortunately,
yeah, I've already lost enough already being a noob. So
yeah, you had the technical issue in race 1, but for sure, finishing second on the grid in race 2 is going to help you championship.
Yeah, exactly. Weirdly, I got a jump start in race 1, so I must have either triggered something on the line, because I actually lost the place. So I was sat there like, oh, it's double negative here, and there was an app that I was supposed to have that I didn't. That was telling me to come in, and so I found out over the line.
Watching,
quite
you'll see
abruptly,
back on the stream here. We're just watching your incredible attempt at an overtake on Mick Sutton as you go across the curb in 5th gear.
Oh yeah, around the left. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
I was hoping. Yeah, definitely. I was hoping. I wasn't sure. I think there's a slight difference in what I see on my screen to other people on their screen sometimes, with internet being how it is. So whilst I had a small overlap on mine, it is a sim race. So I was sat there thinking, oh, I hope he gives me room, and I don't think he wanted to, and so I was sat there like,
he's not going to give you room. No.
no, he definitely didn't give me room. So I was sat there like, okay, maybe I should have waited, but I wanted to get it done before that right, because otherwise you're stuck for like most of the rest of the lap. And that could be the difference sometimes between getting to the front and not. So, like you say, it's the real experience that sort of keys you to do things like that. Maybe let me down today, but there we are.
Yeah. Well, honestly, Mike, what a start to your championship. I know the race 1 was a disappointment, but polling, qualifying, I think you had a fastest lap in there and a second place finish in race 2. You can't be too disheartened with that. So mega start. You've definitely put your stamp on this championship.
Yeah, definitely. I'll stay now and crack on with the next one and see if I can put together a more mistake-free effort for the next one with a bit of preparation. Just get the right things downloaded would be a good start, wouldn't it?
Some of that might be my fault. My apologies, mate.
No, it's okay. I think in the melee of all the different random apps you use, I think I just missed one off the list, and it turned out to be the one that was the stone in the radiator. So yeah, there we go. That's how it goes. Never mind.
Solid effort, mate.
Yeah,
cheers,
well,
mate. Good fun.
Great first time out.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Right, we'll move on to 3rd place on the grid. Jack McIntyre yet again on the podium in a car that he said he didn't have pace in. You're proving it wrong.
I bet he says he wasn't expecting that as well.
Yeah, I bet he does.
Took the words out of my mouth, Steve. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I still don't feel like I've got the pace to be running up the front, but I think what I did have was good tyres by the end of the race. Big shout out to our old mate Ross McFarlane, Dave. He helped me out a little bit before that race with the setup, so I think that probably wouldn't have happened without him. I think a lot of the issues that everyone else was having with the tyres wasn't really there for me. I was looking after them as much as I could and just getting it round. So
that's interesting. So I mean, you don't want to give away tactics, but we can't see on screen, and there's nothing on the tyre. But I take it you're still running mediums rather than the hard compound.
I was running one of the 3 available.
Oh right, okay. Yeah, I mean, that is the sign of someone in the first round of the championship keeping cards very close to chest. But rightly so, Jack. Solid effort, 3rd place, and I would have thought championship lead at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I hope so. That was a dream night considering how practice has been going. I was pretty not really looking forward to it, if I was honest, based on the pace I've had in practice. But it just shows what can happen if you just keep your nose clean and keep the tyres good. So yeah, on to the next round. Hopefully it'll go a little bit better in terms of pace and hopefully results.
Yeah, shaped up to be a great championship. Look forward to Jack.
Yeah, well done, buddy.
And on to our race winner, Isaac Smith.
Hello, hello.
There he is. As we see there, your lovely Heaton Shop Island car going past in the blue and gold. Yeah, phenomenal drive. Kept it clean, pulled out the lead, didn't feel under pressure, brought it home. What more is there to say?
Yeah, there's not much more to it than that. Really, I got it in the front and just looked after the tyres, to be honest. It was...
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot... There's a lot of drivers here saying that the tyres are really struggling towards sort of particularly the last 5 minutes. How are you dealing with the tyres?
Yeah, that's a big issue. My car I had set up for qualifying, really, so it lasted about 5 laps, and then by the end I had 0 tyre wear on 3 tyres, so I was in a bit of a predicament, but it came through okay.
Yeah, I mean, looking at your lap times, that's an incredible effort. If your tyre wear was really that bad, you know, to come away with, you know, a win after 3 tyres have basically gone the distance, that's a really impressive drive.
Yeah, well, I was mostly worried about the tyres going, to be honest. It was...
Yeah, well, what we haven't touched upon is, in this championship, it is actually possible for the tyres to puncture. I don't know whether that was a factor at all that you were thinking of.
Yeah, well, obviously, with it being so low on the tyre wear, and if you get a slight lock-up, you're really going to push the tyres to a delamination. So I just kept my head down, and luckily we came through.
Oh well, I think championship-wise, it's put you in a really good position in the championship overall. So we'll look forward to seeing how you manage next round and quality drive there, Isaac.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. I'd like to thank Riggs, Heating Shop, and Rob Butler for letting me use his sim today.
Yeah, he's a top guy, Rob. He'll help you out at any opportunity.
Definitely.
Well done, Isaac. Great race, mate, and well done for hanging on for the win. And yeah, brilliant drive.
Thank you.
I think that just about concludes the interviews, Dave. Fantastic first race for the Formula R Baths there. Some close racing, some dramas, some tyre issues, some spinning issues, some drive-through penalty issues. It had a safety car issue. It had a little bit of everything, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's for me, it's been a pleasant surprise to seeing how racy these cars actually are. You know, it's always a worry with it being open wheel, you know, the contact model and, you know, what's going to happen if a car hits another one. But I think it's fair to say that that's really proven itself to be great racing so far.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic series to follow the Porsches on. The Porsches provided some great racing, and from those 2 races tonight, I think we're going to have another 3 rounds of fantastic racing coming up very, very soon. And you know, the guys have probably learned a lot from tyre wear tonight, and they'll all be going away and working on their setups and trying to find Jack McIntyre's secret that he's obviously not going to give away.
Oh yeah, he's keeping them close, isn't he? I tried to get it out of him, you heard us, but he wasn't giving anything away.
Yep, and then we've got the new gentleman in the paddock, which is Mike Epps, who is definitely on the pace and proved that he can battle through the field in that second race. That was an absolutely awesome drive. But yeah, really looking forward to round 2 at Vallelunga, which is next week, guys. So, you know, we just want to say thank you to everyone that's tuned in this evening. If you don't already subscribe, please do hit the notification bell, and if you want any more information regarding VRRC, hit up their website, which is www.virtualrealityracingclub.com. You can find lots of information about all the services that they provide, some of the things that Dave's touched on this evening with the coaching. They can also supply you the rigs and some of the gear that you need. So yeah, please feel free to go onto the website, and I think you know, pretty much that nearly, as we're just showing you the website there, the timings and the results and things like that. But that just about wraps up the stream for this week.
Yeah,
and
just a quick word, Steve. Just to also say that, you know, as you can see, this championship isn't full as of yet. So if anyone does want to enter, you know, you don't have to enter the full championship. You can enter certain rounds if there's a track you would like to do. Just feel free to drop Rich a message at VRRC, and we'll get you involved.
Yeah, definitely be interesting to see even more cars on the grid, but what is already a healthy grid. So a few more in the mix would be great stuff. But yeah, looking forward, as I say, very much to Vallelunga next week. Hopefully you guys can all join myself and Dave Marshall. It's been absolutely awesome racing this evening. Hope you all enjoyed it as much as we did. But for now, it's good night and thank you.
Good night.
The inside of Coates.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.